Okay, let's look at installing the screen material. Hold your screen up, tuck in the corner, apply a piece of spline to hold it in place. Work the screen material into the snap extrusion, only about a 2 or 3 foot section at a time. Work the spline into that section and repeat it again. Now this is the same procedure we're going to use on every opening, no matter the size. Go over the spline one more time, make sure it's fully seated. Take your knife and trim the spline. Tuck the end in. And that's how you start screening. Let's review, and we're going to watch it one more time. You're going to tuck the screen into the top corner and tuck in a piece of spline. Work the screen into a 2 or 3 foot section of the snap extrusion. Install the spline into that section and repeat until the entire top section is done. Let's see it again. Now, if you're left-handed, you're going to be operating from the left side, working right. But as a right-handed person, we're going to operate from the right side, working left. And just like we saw before, tuck the corner in to hold the screen. Hold the screen up straight. You notice a couple tricks here. We're going to hold the screen there with the spline tool. Now we're going to hold it with our left hand and keep the spline nice and straight. Now this is actually the hardest part of the entire installation. Once you do the top, the rest of it's pretty simple. But we're going to show you this one more time when we go over to full screening. Now this is the method we've developed and the procedure we've developed that works the best in our opinion. You can change based upon your conditions, your application, but this pretty much is the best way to go. Okay, we're going to trim this off, and we're going to start right from the beginning, walking up to our mock opening, and show you the whole screening procedure. Okay, our screen is on the ground in a roll, so that's out of view at this second. But the first thing we're going to do is we're going to come up, and again, every opening, same thing. Measure your spline, make sure you have enough. You can work off the roll, but we prefer just to have smaller pieces. You don't get tangled up that way. Leave your screen on the roll, and you'll see why in a minute. Pull the screen up. You need to have at least 1 inch overlap on all sides. Tuck in the corner like you've seen a couple times already. Tuck the spline to hold it in place. Work the screen in. Seat the screen in the channel by putting the spline in. And again, you're going to do 2 3 foot section at a time. And it doesn't really matter how big the opening is. You're just going to do the same thing going across the entire opening. Now this is the most important section. The top has to be done correctly because it's going to make the rest of the screening procedure very easy. Trim off the corner, tuck in our spline. Now we go to the bottom. Hold the screen nice and straight. Trim at the bottom of the opening, so now we have almost no waste of screen. Hold your screen nice and straight, and the same thing now. Tuck in the corner. Apply a small piece of spline to hold it in place. Put a little tension, downward tension on the screen. Work it in. Same basic procedure, a couple of feet at a time. Keep an eye on the screen, make sure you're not deforming it. You want to keep it nice and straight, and you want to have the spline applying the pressure to keep the screen taut. And as you're pulling tension on the bottom, you want to make sure the screen is nice and flat and everything stays straight. So now we trim off our spline. And now we're going to start doing our heights. And again, this is based upon a right-handed person. If you're left-handed, you'd be doing exactly the opposite of what you see here. So we're going to spline on our prime side first. And as you see, as we begin to work the screen in, we're holding tension on the left side. Now, on a larger opening, you would just press into the center of the screen, pressing inward, and that would help keep the screen straight. And the spline is going to be installed in one motion. And again, if you need to, you can break this up into 2 or 3 sections again, just like you did on the top and the bottom. But we find the sides can be done in just one shot, nice and simple. Trim off your spline, pull out any screen that's stuck. And now you're in the home stretch. Last part to do. Watch the screen as you're putting it in. Make sure everything's staying straight. Install your last piece of spline. Again, one fluid motion, and if you have to, break it up into 2 or 3 sections like you did the top and the bottom. Trim off the last piece of spline. And now you're going to start trimming the screen itself. Now, the website shows you a couple of pictures, and there's another video that details the actual cutting channel that's in the extrusion, so you run your knife down. But you need to be extremely careful. If you dig too deep into the spline channel and you cut the spline itself, you need to pull that spline out and change it. The spline has to be left intact and it has to be fully seated. So make sure before you start trimming everything, you examine the spline closely and that it's fully seated on all sections of the extrusion itself. And take your time trimming because you really don't want to slip here and cut the screen because you're just about done and you don't want to have to start all over again. Okay, there's just a little more trimming to go and this opening is completed. There's no secondary components or caps to cut or caps to hammer in place. Once you're done, the opening's completed, you move on to your next one. And again, the procedures we're showing are what we feel are the best ones to go with. You can modify these based upon your conditions, based upon your ability, based upon the size or the shape of the opening. There's no real wrong way. This is just the best way we feel that'll work. Snap is a great product that moves fast and sells itself. If you would like to sell Snap in your store or through your business, or if you're interested in distributing Snap in Canada, contact our office. Thank you again for watching.